For a company that's been around for 125 years, certainly seen a lot of technology transformation. So I want to kind of set the scene for the audience so you can describe how you're implementing AI and automation. Now, when we spoke earlier, you had mentioned different areas. Now, first you had mentioned PepsiCo using AI to make its system more consistent. Get a little bit into that for us.
Absolutely. Super excited to be here. I actually have a few slides that I thought will help, have the discussion. So, the first thing is, this is the lay of the land when I joined PepsiCo a few years ago. There was disparate systems that didn't scale. Every market was somehow different, had something custom built for them, and the logic was kind of, inconsistent. And what happens is the markets kind of just sit on different parts of the evolution curve, and we just are never able to bring everyone up to the same level. So from there, we kind of went to, okay, how can we harmonize this? And so the truth is, it's kind of like going to a dentist, right? You have the teeth you have, and you're going to have to figure out how to make it look better. And so where we started was more in sort of the middle layers. Can we harmonize the business logic? Can we industrialize the AI models? Can we create a somewhat of a domain-specific data template? And that's kind of where we focus all our energy on. And if you think about what I call the first mile and the last mile, inherently, it's going to take us a very long time to get everyone on the same page. And the truth is, there's going to be an app in Portugal that's going to behave very differently from an app in Chile. And so what we did is we then applied intelligent automation and AI to serve as accelerators. And so, I have some use cases here of, what are we doing in the first mile? And this is where, the beauty of it is we said, okay, the data is the data. It's going to be different. Can we empower sort of the local teams to use intelligent automation to kind of plug into sort of the broader unified infrastructure? The second part of it was more around the business logic. And I'll come back to this. I have a few more examples, which is always evolving. Can we then have intelligent automation be a part of that evolution of the logic, the business logic, so everybody can keep up? And then the last one is last mile customization, whether it's language translations or tax rules or what have you. Can we federate out that development activity using citizen developer approaches to the markets itself?
You've laid it out nicely just for us. I love that. Something else you mentioned is about understanding the existing process, right? Why it's important. So how has automation helped in that area?
Oh, it's funny. I'm sure all of you have gone through this. So you kick off a project, and the first thing the team comes back with is say, you know what? I need 3 to 4 months of discovery. I need to go figure out what is happening. And this was exactly the same story that we had. So this is an example. It's a real example from a warehouse solution that we were building. And the team came back and said, it's going to take us at least 4 months to figure out what is going on, which is, the truth is, if a human went and tried to map out the spaghetti diagram on the left, it is going to take quite a bit of time. So what we actually did is we used automation and mining, and through whether it was mining on top of the ERP systems or within the systems that were in the warehouse, and we mapped it all out within almost 3 to 4 weeks. And then it was, okay, so how do we take this and build a solution? So we applied automation in a sort of development phase and more of a discovery phase. And this whole project, which would have typically taken 6+ months, we got done and we scaled it out to 9 warehouses in literally 2 months. And so again, if you ask me, did we get 100% of the value of all the efficiencies? No. But we got more than 30-40% in that short a time. So from a time value of money, we got it all back.
It's all about the time. You have to maximize the time. Talk to us about some of the unique ways that you've been implementing AI.
Yeah, I actually have another example. And this is, we call this the last mile customization, right? So we have an application that we actually have our customers download. And when I'm saying customers, think mom and pop stores. And this is especially in the emerging markets. And so the same solution scales across a large number of markets. So we're at over a dozen markets. And so we're talking Brazil, Romania, and what have you. And in order to keep the costs down, what we ended up doing was we embedded low code within sort of the application itself. And we realized that the cost to serve when we have customer issues is really high. And again, it's somehow unique to every market. And so we then built out an interface where we enable the business team in the local market to curate how to set up the customer support. And in whatever channels they wanted to use, whether it was WhatsApp or within the app or SMS, it didn't matter. They could configure the whole thing. And so we set up a system, and then we were able to scale it across all of these markets that I'm talking about. So we were able to bring down the cost of development by about 35%, and the time to market was much, much faster too. So, and the beauty of it all was because we were changing the sales process dramatically, the minute we gave the business team access to the solution and ability to configure it, they wanted to use it. Otherwise, we were getting a lot of resistance.
Right. Now, you touched upon something there, cost effective, because it's an investment. Technology, investing in technology can be a big price tag for a lot of folks. So talk to us about how you've gotten that ROI and how you've made it cost effective for you.
I mean, it's two vectors, right? For us, it is speed to market. How soon, if I put $1 of investment in now, can I get the ROI, which is whatever the multiple is, as soon as I can, right? And so gone are the days of, it's going to take us a year to take this from discovery to deployment. We're actually operating in quarters or less than a quarter. So we go pretty fast through, okay, can we get something of value out there? And then we keep evolving from it. The development is extremely modular. Everything is a Lego block, right? The logic within the block might change, but then we reassemble the blocks and redeploy it elsewhere. Customization, we federate it out to the market because, if you're doing this globally, the center can never be smart enough as the market. And so we just federate it out and empower them through low code to sort of fend for themselves. And then the differentiated value is, at the end of the day, you have applications across your entire value chain. How do you interconnect them? How do you get them to work in real time together? And we're able to sort of do that with that harmonization of the middle layer. So those are some of the things that we have sort of done to get not only quickly to the market, but also get the value as we do it.
Now, do you have any examples of any challenges? Because with new technology comes different risks. So do you have any examples of a problem that you've encountered, and explain to us what you've done to overcome that?
Absolutely. I mean, the first challenge was adoption, right? I mean, currency is adoption. So how do you, take a company that's, sort of operated the way it's operated and say, guess what? Now we're going to have self-service. We're going to have the store owner place the order. The salesperson needn't go to the store and do that. So for that adoption piece is where, some of the strategies I touched on, which is empowering the sales team to actually curate the solution on their own, allowed us to drive that adoption. So that's one example. The other one is human in the loop, right? So this is an example where we said, okay, you know what? Instead of having the salesperson with all the logic in their head figure out how many units to order, why don't we have an AI model do it? And then it was like, I'm not sure about this, it's a black box and what have you. So we then sort of had a more incremental way. So it was like first launched as a suggested order, and then it was improvements to that, and now it's an auto order. And so it was a little bit of a journey to get there. And the last one is the cost, right? I mean, like I said, going back to my dentist analogy, I would love to have the teeth on the side and an open mouth and just put it all in the right place. It never happens. So how do you then sort of work with what you have, but you keep your costs low?
Now, what about companies, people who are sitting out here who say, you know what, we want to take that next step. We want to take the leap. We want to get into automation, AI, everything. What advice do you have for them as they're getting ready for this next step? What questions should they be asking themselves?
I mean, the first thing, and I faced a lot of resistance with my own team on this one, is operating in the continuum of pro code and low code. So, my team, I have software engineers, I have a lot of automation engineers, and it's almost like they speak a different language. And so getting them to sort of actually hold hands and build solutions that sort of combine both of them, like the customer support example that I showed, it took a while. Yeah. So, getting comfortable, because then if you look at the cost of development, especially experimentation, it really comes down dramatically if you can operate well in that continuum. So that's number one. The second one is skimming the value. And this is where it's always like when we go through our planning process and we're going through the budgets and whatnot, I always say, what, we're going to get value in Q1, Q2, Q3, all quarters, right? And we'll give sort of a staggered amount. So it's very important to be able to go from start to finish fast enough so you can at least have these proof points of, am I going to get the return on my investment? So that's the second one. How do you design your solution towards that output? And then the last one is, how do you disrupt yourself before getting disrupted? So we talk a lot about, technology is worse than driving a new car out of the dealer's lot because it's old even as you touch the steering wheel. So that's where, we have a couple of things we do intentionally. One is, we have this Lego block model that we apply quite a bit. And so for us, the switching cost is switching a Lego block, and that works well. So we talk a lot about what's the exit barrier for a specific solution even before we build it, because we know we're going to have to exit it, right? And then the second one is we actually have a structured program with startups where we intentionally embed really nascent technology and logic, and then we test it out, we experiment, and we see if it has any legs. And then we sort of go from there in terms of evolving into a more industrialized solution. So, there are a lot of misses. As long as you can keep those costs low and you get your learnings and your proof points, we can make progress. And the last piece is this hybrid approach of build and buy. So, if you look at the stack, it's a whole hodgepodge of different approaches, which is fine. Again, it still has the structure of those Lego blocks that I keep mentioning. So, which allows us to sort of say, what is, when we make a decision of whether we're going to build it or buy it, we look at a net present value of the build cost and the run costs and then make a decision. So those are the things we do.
Now, we've talked a lot about what you're doing, some of the challenges, some of the benefits that you've seen from it. Let's look ahead, to the future. What are you excited about for AI and automation?
I mean, I am so excited. I feel like we have finally arrived, right? I mean, Madhu gave some really good examples too, is some of the long poles we had in technology, which is talent, the training needed to be able to code in different languages, and being able to interface and integrate with different systems. All of that, to a large extent, it's become a lot more easier. So now companies really have no reason to embrace the transformation and, and be able to sort of do it in a cost-effective way. And so for me, it's like being like a kid in a candy store with a ton more candy. And so, it's very exciting times for us.
I want to get to one of the questions now from the audience.
Yeah.
If they could scroll up a little, it's the one about the high school senior who's interested in a career, because I think this is interesting. We've talked a lot about what people are learning, let's say, at the college level. Should they be learning about this at a different level, at a younger level? And this is the high school senior interested in a career, data science, AI. What advice do you have for them? Bachelor's degree, what should they look for? So they're starting younger and younger, and that's a good thing.
Taking it all the way back, you got to get really comfortable with math and logic, right? Because it is input, output, and the system does something. In terms of the degree, I almost feel that it is not as important. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can learn on your own, But if you are super interested, whether it's computer science or data science, getting a technical degree certainly helps, right? The one thing that I will add, and I see this with my, with the teams that I've led, is even if you're in a very technical space, being grounded in the business and the business outputs is so, so important. Because otherwise, I've seen teams and organizations spend millions of dollars. It's kind of like technology for technology's sake. And there's no point in that. So knowing how to, the art and science of applying technology to get to that ROI or the outcome is very crucial. So I would say, yes, I have an undergrad and a master's in a technical side, but I also have an MBA. I think I came full circle when I got the business view.
So we've been talking about the future, what you're excited about, but what challenges do you see ahead? I mean, there's so much talk about regulations and things like that. We had the Biden administration who put these safeguards now around AI, that executive order. What challenges do you see coming ahead too for AI?
I think the responsible use of data and intelligence is very, very important. And there's a lot of ways in which companies can sort of set up some tenets and guidelines and adhere to them. And actually, the technology allows us to do that. So, for example, we had sort of the solution that there were multiple third parties that were integrating together. And each one of them wanted to keep their data private, rightfully so, right? And it was also regulatory concerns that the data starts to merge, there's anti-compete issues and whatnot. And so we actually instituted an eyes-off AI model setup. So, we didn't have any data scientists looking at the data and building the models. And we were able to sort of do this in an opaque way. And we also had, human in the loop. So every individual company had a way of validating if the model outputs were in line with their expectations or not. So coming back, it's very, very important that, organizations and companies decide what are the guidelines and what are the rules that they want to apply. The technology will do whatever you want it to do, but it's crucial to know what you want to do.
Good point. Gayatri, thank you so much.
One
more time. Let's have it for Gayatri from PepsiCo.
Thank you.